up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome today for another session in the office for Tarka Say It Again. And as you can see, we have a new guest. We have Mr. Jackson, or Coach Jackson, in the office with us today.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming to the office. He is the Family Engagement Liaison for the school system.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
And I felt the need to bring him in because for the past 2 weeks, we've had educators in here and they've been sharing their experiences with us, how it is educating in the cosmopolitan society, as well as what they see and some techniques and strategies, things that can help us in the homes as far as dealing with violence or dealing with safety in and out of the schools. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to give us some information on how we could possibly bridge the gap when it comes to the community, when it comes to the parents, the students, anything that can assist with our generation today.
Yes. So thank you again for having me come in. And as she mentioned, my name is Marcus Jackson. I currently serve as the Family Engagement Liaison at a high school locally. So like you mentioned, one of the things in which I think that, parents can get a little bit more involved. And again, my job as the Family Engagement Liaison is to simply bridge that gap between what's going on in the school and what's going on in the community, and to try to go ahead and bring both together on one common core.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things in which I've kind of noticed is that a lot of parents tend to step back when their child goes to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, for lack of better words, that is the absolute wrong thing to do.
I agree.
So, I get it. You want them to have their independency, but this is the time in which you're going to have to be more hands-on than you were when they were just in middle school. Because they get influenced by so many things, friends, TV, everything, social media, all these things play a role. So the fact that, parents are stepping back a lot more when the child first gets to high school, it's a bad choice. So you can tell the parents the difference between the student that has a parent that's considered the hovering parent or the parent that's just kind of stepping back. And in all honesty, that hovering parent is going to get more out of their child. And I hate to say hovering because it makes it seem that this is a bad word when in reality.
Yeah, or maybe just saying guiding them,
Yes.
or monitoring. That might be the choice. Monitoring them, monitoring those behaviors, monitoring those study habits,
Yes.
checking to see if there are any, addressing any questions, and even if they're not coming to you with questions, ask them if they have some questions. So
no, that's actually perfect. One of the things in which I always recommend to a lot of parents is don't allow them to give you the one word answer. Ask a lot of open-ended questions. So they're going to be very bland and say, "Hey, school was good." What does that look like? What happened today?
Right. What is good?
Yeah, like
what made it good?
Yeah. What did you teach? What did you learn from your teacher?
Right.
So just make it more of a conversation, and then make them put the phones down. I see a lot of the parents, and none against you parents that decide to give their kids their phones and these tablets, but excuse my language, but that's just lazy. It's lazy parenting. I get it, it's work to become a parent, but you chose to be a parent.
Right.
So you got to be involved, and it's a lot of work to be involved, but it's worth ounce of sweat and work equity that you put into it, because what you put in is what you get out.
Right.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of our teens going down the wrong road, and they have a good parenting, 2-parent household at home.
Yeah.
Their own room, things in which, I wasn't able to experience when I was a kid. So how are you more of a thug than I am? So, it's crazy. So I just try to understand like what's missing. And again, it's the parenting. They're the missing piece, because kids going to be kids. And a lot of parents don't realize too, you got to put yourself back into their shoes. Like, you were 16 before, you were 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. You weren't choosing to do the right thing, you know?
Right. We all can say we've been there, but we did not have as much distractions as they do today.
Way more distractions.
Right.
And way more ways to get in trouble, which again goes back to why you have to be there to, monitor.
Yes.
So, and you want to monitor them, because again, it's easier to get distracted because there's so many distractions nowadays. So,
and if you could throw out what monitoring looks like, because I know I could say, and this is a personal experience, when my daughter was in high school and we had Skyward. Yes, I would be tired at the end of the day, but I would tell her, bring your computer. So while I'm on my computer, she's on her computer showing me the grades.
That's it.
And I say that because I have parents, well, I be tired, I don't feel like it, or I can't get on. They know how to get on. They know how to navigate through this internet and Wi-Fi and all of that. Make them bring and show you the grades.
And I say this to all parents, now, I know you're tired. We're all tired. Like, we all tired. Like, we're all dealing with this tough life that's going on in 2025. Eggs being $10 a case. We're all dealing with these things. That doesn't give you the
excuse.
Yes.
To neglect.
Yes. If you don't take care of them, the world don't take care of them.
And that's what we was just saying last week. You don't want the streets teaching them. No. You don't want the streets raising them.
No.
We literally was talking about that last week.
So my mom always says, and I love you, Mom, because she says this, I beat you because I love you. This world gonna beat you and don't care anything about you. So again, parents, I don't say beat them, but you gotta teach them these lessons so that the world doesn't teach them lessons. Because again, you care about them, we care, but the world doesn't care about them. So that's something it plays in my head now, every day. Right.
And just continuing with another scenario, the listening skills is almost as if they're not there. And I'll give an example. Of course, we know the cell phone thing is just ridiculous, right? Not that they shouldn't have cell phones, but it is just through the roof as far as not knowing when to put it down. It has become addictive. And is staying attached to their hands, to even when they have to take a test, it's like it's not registering. Let me put this phone up for right now. I'll get it back later, because the teacher doesn't want my phone. The teacher has a phone or two. She's going to give it back, or he's going to give it back to me. And let me handle my business and focus, because I got some concordance scores that I need to get in order to walk across that stage, right? It's not registering. And again, when we talk about listening, that's an actual skill. People listen to respond. It's not soaking in literally. Yeah. When you give commands or reprimands or whatever the case, because there was literally an incident today where they had to come in and confiscate the phones during a test. And yes, the proctor has said it 4 or 5 times because they read it from the script.
Yeah, no, we get that a lot now. And like you mentioned, I mean, I had a situation and it hit close to home, because this was actually one of my family members that went to the school with me. And he was having a meltdown about a phone. So I tell him, I'm like, hey, you know, it's funny. You want me to treat you as an adult, but you're acting like a child when it comes to not having this phone. So a lot of this stuff, it dates back to when they're in high school. It's not too late, but we've already are dealing with these habits that have been created because when this kid was only 2 years old, the parents were sticking with a tablet in his face rather than just letting him color, you know, or getting on the floor and playing with them. So they're used to having this electronic device in their face at all times. So parents just got to take in consideration moderation.
Yeah,
you know, and
that's key.
And I'm a firm believer in your kid doesn't need to sleep with that phone in their room. Because at the end of the day, when it's in the room, you know they're not going to sleep. Because again, when I was 14, 15, 16,
we're going to sneak and do it.
I'm going to sneak and do it.
Yeah.
So now you're giving them this phone and placing it in there and say, hey, it's okay to sneak and do it. I'm allowing you to do the wrong thing. So have them place their phone away at 9:30, you know, 10 o'clock. Another thing is going to sound kind of crazy, but we got to do a better job of feeding our babies. You know, when they come to a lot of these schools, they give them a Pop-Tart, juice, cinnamon bun for breakfast. That's sugar. And we're wondering why our kids are just walking around here, jumping off the roof, acting, you know, which way, every way, but right way. But we're filling their body with sugar versus, you know, giving them fruit. And again, this is 2025. Things are expensive. But your health is expensive. If that's even a word.
When you get older,
because you're going to pay for it. Yes. So, you know, one of my coaches always used to say, do what's hard now and it becomes easier later. Because if you do what's easy now, it becomes hard later. So, you know, and again, as a parent myself in 2025 and understanding that this stuff is expensive, sometimes you got to make certain sacrifices. Because at the end of the day, you're the parent. You chose to bring that child into this world.
Right.
So you just got to suck it up, buttercup.
Right. So. And, you know, I'm liking how you're sharing these different scenarios, definitely talking about what we're putting in our bodies and how that deals with the brain function. Yes. You know, what are we feeding it? Yes. Not to say they can't have sugar, but make sure it's something else in there that's balancing it. Yes. You know?
And honestly, too, it is more than just eating. Who they're hanging around. Like, again, shouts out to my mom. She always would monitor who my friends were. And, you know, we didn't get it. My brother and I didn't get it when we were younger.
Right.
Because we were just like, why my mom harassing us? Like, my boys. Like, but if birds of a feather flock together, my pastor said, if it's 4 broke jokers hanging out together, you go be the 5th one. So you kind of got to monitor their friends, monitor what they're taking in, what they're watching on social media, what they're listening to, you know, because again, all this music nowadays is telling them shoot, bang, bang, kill. But
it's entertainment. So they have to remember that it is entertainment. And I know some that was their prior life, but guess what? They're trying to get up out of that life and make changes. So it becomes from illegal to legal.
And that's the thing, too. We as adults understand the difference from reality and fantasy. 13, 14, 15-year-old kids are not ready to process that. Especially, again, because we're already behind the 8 ball with processing stuff because of the terrible diet. The not enough sleep we're getting. Like, you know, we get kids that come in there and are dead tired at 7:30 in the morning. I'm just confused as to, well, what time did you go to bed? Well, I ain't get to sleep till 2. Well, what are you doing at that early? You know, like, so it's like, again, you want to be that parent, but you don't want to be the parent. You have to be.
And this is the thing, because you have different type children, right?
Yes.
You have some children where you can put the cell phone in their room and they gonna go to sleep. Phone on the charger, they gonna go to sleep.
But I wasn't that kid. My brother was like, he do the right thing. This was the guy ironing his clothes in middle school. Mind you, I was pulling my stuff from underneath the bed out of the hamper. Making sure if it was just okay, if it looked okay, I wear it to school.
And that's okay because you're the child, right? You don't know.
Yes.
It's the responsibility of the parent to teach the child, to continue to monitor, whatever. That's the point that we're making.
Mm-hmm.
You have a child where they can sleep with the phone in the room. Then you have one that will not and can't. Like you say, that would be you, right? So because you're the parent and you should know the difference or be able to recognize and see the difference, you're going to have to do different things with if you have more than one child, with each kid. It's not a one size fit all.
No.
Right.
That's the truth. I mean, we deal with it now, especially, like I said, inside of the high school. You know, you can't, what works for this kid doesn't work for the other kid. So, yeah, you definitely got to kind of be but you definitely have to be mindful of who your kid is. And it's going to sound crazy, but you got to get to know your kid. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to know, like, because I love to hear the stories when the parents come in and tell me, oh, little Johnny never acts like this. Mm-hmm. Man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Little Johnny at school for 8 hours a day acting like this. You think he gonna go home and be different? Mm-hmm. So parents are going to have to be a realist as well. And I know we as parents want to protect our kids from a lot of stuff, but in reality, that a lot of the stuff that you want to protect for are life lessons, and they need to experience these things.
Yes. Providing those experiences and those create an opportunity if that's what you need to do.
Yes.
Take them here, take them there, see how they're going to respond to it.
That'll help you better gauge as to how you do other things with them. So we, as parents, and like I say we, because I'm a parent as well,
you
know it.
As well.
And it sucks when you see your child going through pain, but I always think back to this. If there's no struggle, there's no reward.
Right.
And even if a diamond, in order to become a diamond, we all look at this finished product of a diamond, but we don't realize it started off as a coal, and it was endured a ton of pressure, a ton of darkness, a ton of pain, only for it to come out to be that beautiful diamond. That's everything in life we got to do.
I love that analogy.
And think about even with the flower, you got to bury it. You got to be buried in the dirt. You got to get rained on. And that's the thing that a lot of us parents, we tend to do is try to protect and shield our kids from this, not knowing we're stunning their growth. And my mom tell me all the time, I'll never forget, I thought I was grown. I hadn't graduated college, was working at Enterprise, shout out to Rent Car, my first real grown-up job. Okay. And I told my mom, I'm going to be on the insurance. I'm going to take my own insurance out. I'm letting them take the $300 out my check every 2 weeks. Then when I got to about 25 years old, I was sitting there talking to my mom. She was like, hey, you remember I told you could have stayed on my insurance till you was 26 years old. Ooh. I said, yes, ma'am, I remember. But she's like, you remember that conversation we had? I was like, yes, ma'am. She's like, what'd you tell me? I said, I wouldn't be grown, it's mine. So I let them take them $300 out your check every 2 weeks when you could have just been on mine for free. And she had better insurance. So, again, we got to let our kids learn. Mm-hmm. And I know we don't want them to go through pain and suffering, but again, at least you know that at the end of this pain and suffering, there's going to be something positive that comes out of it.
And not only that, in hopes that the little, like you say, the pain and suffering they go through now at a younger age, it'll prepare them for when they get older, in hopes that it's not as detrimental as when you get older. Yes. You know what I mean? Depending upon what it is.
You'll deal with the loss better because you've already dealt with the loss before, versus it being the first time you're ever dealing with this type of loss. Right. You're going to be shell shocked, culture shocked, completely shocked, all of it. So, yeah.
And I think it's going back to that foundation.
Yes.
It's starting at home, right? I'm going to give you one more example of the importance of, at a young age. I got a chance to experience a basketball game last week. And I didn't know 4-year-olds could play basketball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I did not know.
They got the little hoops and everything.
What? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And seeing them dribble, the skill set, right? Them dribbling, them shooting, playing defense. And there was one baby on the court, because they wasn't giving him the ball. He got up, pouting, laid out on the floor, kicking. Mm-hmm. And me, being an educator, I'm about to lose my mind in my seat, because I'm like, where's mama? Where's mama? And then I see mama and I'm like, like she need to have this conversation now. But I'm glad to see, okay, she got him involved, right? Doing this activity. But at the same time, I was cringing because this is where it starts. And if we don't do anything to rectify this behavior at this young age, we're going to see it in high school. We're going to see it in college because we just all witnessed on the news, FSU, that baby shooting. I don't know what was the reason why he did what he did. But a lot of times when we get their testimonies or their stories later, a professor made them upset. A teacher made them upset.
They can't deal with rejection or pain. So it's funny that you mentioned the sports side because I do coach.
Yes, he is a coach.
And we'll be here all day talking about that. But I'm going to just dab in a little bit and kind of piggyback. Parents, if you're going to trust that coach to coach your kid, get out the way and let that coach your kid. A lot of the things in which I make been experiencing myself is, a lot of the parents tend to want to coach the coach. Mm-hmm. And it is very upsetting because a lot of the times the coach will have way more life experience in this subject than the parent does. I did a survey one day of the team and asked if the kids could raise their hand if their parent played a collegiate sport. Mm-hmm. Out of 60 players, no hands were raised.
Wow.
Then I asked the following question. How many of your parents, raise your hand if you had a parent that's either coached this sport for 5+ years or, more. Mm-hmm. We had one kid didn't raise their hand. Mm. But you hear all of the parents screaming and coaching, telling the coach what to do.
Right,
but yet you've never played this sport in college or even past the next level. So again, how can you tell me how to get to Rome if you've never been to Rome?
Right. That's some good points.
So, again, if you're going to trust this coach to coach your kid, you can't try to undercut them. And then, too, a lot of the situation we deal with a lot of the parents disrespecting the coaches in front of the kid.
And the kid gonna see it and think they can do the same thing.
And wondering why the kid isn't listening to the coach. So now you got two messed up situations. So parents got to do better of just letting coaches coach. I was just having a conversation with my mom the other day, and, one of the coaches I was very fortunate to play up under was Bill Gerke.
I remember him, yes.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Yes.
And, she mentioned, she was like, I didn't always agree with the way which how he handled everything, but that's his team. Mm-hmm. He had been coaching for 20+ years. How can I tell this man that's been doing this longer than me how to handle this situation? Mm-hmm. So, again, you might not like everything that the coach is doing, but trust it. He had some type of experience to be there. So.
Right. And I was just going to say, if there is something that you see or recognize that you don't think is correct or that could be advanced or fixed, go to the coach, have that discussion, have that dialogue versus trying to come at them sideward or going off, like you said, being disrespectful.
Or transferring school. A lot of people, and that's another thing that I think a lot of parents are doing a disservice to their child is telling them, hey, you don't have to deal with anything tough. When it gets tough, you can just transfer and leave. And so it doesn't teach them to deal with their problems. It tells them to run away from them because, again, I'm going to go elsewhere. But I'm going to shout out my granddad, too, Arthur Jackson. He says this, son, the grass may be green on the other side, but you don't know what it takes to water it.
Yeah.
Because it could be blood to water this grass.
Wow.
To make it grow so flourish. Are you willing to give up this blood to water this grass? So rather than look at somebody else's yard and say, oh, man, I like what they got over there. Work yourself. Mm-hmm. And you create it on your yard. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of kids tend to just run, and that's running from their problems. And honestly, they wouldn't be able to do it if the adults didn't just agree to take them to school. I already knew I couldn't ask my mom to transfer out of the school I went to. Oh, because somebody's there bigger, better, stronger than me. She was like, boy, you better work harder. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of parents, like I said, do their kids a disservice by not telling them, you got to work hard. You can't just transfer it, which is kind of why this generation now is dealing with nobody wants to work.
Right.
Yeah, everybody.
The easy route.
Yeah. So, I don't like this job, or nobody keep a job for longer than 6 months. So.
Yeah, we make the joke about that, where it's like this generation, they're like, why do we even have to work? You know,
I could be an influencer,
right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it at all.
But let's have something else on the side, because if somebody decide to shut TikTok down, then you stuck.
Exactly.
You stuck
with no education or nothing.
Right. Let's have some backup plans. That's all we're saying.
Yes, and also too, you know, I'm not the biggest pusher or advocate for college, but I am, if that makes sense, because you don't go about it by going to college and getting in debt, but you definitely, I think, in my personal opinion, every kid should step on a college campus.
Yeah.
It allows them to, one, set their boundaries as far as like grow into their own and say, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is how I want to move, I get to set my schedule, I can hang out this way. It teaches you those responsibility nuggets that you need to have as an adult, but yet doesn't give you the full responsibility of being an adult. So, you know, I tell a lot of my players all the time, get your butt to college. Like, if you want to be grown, that way you can kind of get a taste of grown life. It ain't all the way grown. Then when you master that, then that's when you jump to that next level.
And I think, again, going back to those experiences, you know, if they have siblings or family members that are currently on these college campuses, take them.
Yes.
Let them experience that. And that's what I did for my brother.
Yeah.
You know, he would come up there during the summer and he would stay with me. That's when, you know, they was able to go to the classes with you. But the fact of him seeing, you know,
want to go.
Yeah.
Same for me. My older brother, my mom took us on tours just locally here in Orlando. We saw UCF. We ended up seeing, we even went out a little bit, went down to FAU, checked out a couple schools down there. And, you know, being that my brother was had to be like 9th grade and I was in 8th, I was understanding like, oh, I need to get to college.
Yeah.
This is where I need to be. Man. These buildings are big.
Right.
But I need to come here.
Right.
What these dudes doing with this group stuff? You know, I was just so like in awe. And it really was the bug that really like motivated me to continue to do the right thing, to do work, so I could go to school. That's another thing.
Open your eyes.
Another thing. Parents, make sure you can't, student athlete, student first. You play like LeBron James. You know how the grades, I can't do nothing with it. And the college is not going to invest that money in you. So student athlete. So, and that, again, seeing those colleges and seeing that made me be like, okay, I'm going to do my work because I know I have to have this work in order to get to this school.
Right.
So, well, yeah, exposure. We need to expose these kids to that so that they can get a drive. And it's kind of hard because they see everything already. They saw everything on social media through, you know, the internet and all that stuff. So it's kind of hard to kind of woo them. But for some strange reason, every time we step on the college campus, anytime I've taken field trips for kids, they're in a maze. Because it's different looking at it on the screen than when you're actually there, standing there looking at the building. So they need to experience it. 100%. 100%.
Well, I definitely appreciate everything that you have shared thus far. Do you have any closing remarks for anyone, the parents, the kids, as far as how they can be more involved, engaged?
Yes. So it's going to start with just having a conversation with your child. Be interested in your child. Learn more about your child. And also, too, give them the freedom to not necessarily just be wild, but express themselves. Understand that they're young adults, especially high school kids. You know, because a lot of times the high school kids already automatically think they're grown. So give them the space to speak a little bit more freely and not be so hard on them so they can open up to you. Because a lot of these kids, they're brilliant, like, and have a lot to say. And honestly, a lot smarter than we were when we were at that age.
Yeah. More technical. Yeah, they are.
So give them that space to do that, but also give them the opportunity, but also be there so that you can help them navigate through this life. Like, just be the monitoring parent.
Yeah.
and monitor and make sure that they're doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, they're going to be in society.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord knows, when I'm sitting on that table, find out what school you went to in 2000. One and two, I will say, Doc, I know you cheated your way through.
Right. Because they the ones got to take care of us, right?
Exactly. So, we got to make sure these babies are good, because, again, like you said, they got to take care of us.
Right.
And if we give them all the answers, they ain't going to know how to do nothing.
And critically thinking is major.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a whole nother skill.
Yes.
Yes.
So listening, comprehension, and critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know you see it more than me, because you're in the
hands on.
Yeah. So it's like.
Yes. I spend a lot of times just asking questions to try to get them to think on their own before I give them the answer or tell them what to do, how to break the task down.
So you asked my last words. That was perfect, because ultimately that's what parents have to do. They got, you want to help them, but you want to also allow them to solve their own problems. Mm-hmm. I'll say this last thing. I was in the garage with my son, and he had to be all of 5 years old at this time. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to do something, and everything in me wanted to help him out, but I was like, no, dude, you got to figure it out. When I tell you the amount of joy on his face when he figured this out, and how he felt like the biggest man in the world, mind you, he was only 5. Mm-hmm. And all he bragged about was, oh, I did it, Dad. Yeah. And all I could say was, son, I know you could.
Right.
So, again, giving him the opportunity to struggle. He was struggling. But once he figured it out and got it done, he was the happiest kid in the world. Because, again, he solved the problem. Mm-hmm. And we got to let our kids, we got to let them solve some problems.
Right. I think that's, being able to monitor them, solving the problem. Yeah. And when you feel they've gotten to their frustration level, then lend a hand.
You can let them go a little bit longer, then lend a hand. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, hopefully, parents, you all got something from what was said here today in the office of Tarka Say It Again. And know that no one is trying to tell you, but we are trying to. No, we're not trying to tell you what to do. Just offer suggestions. If you see it's not working one particular way, try another way. Monitor the kids. Yes, they're going to give some pushback. They're going to give you attitude. They're not going to like what you do, and they might verbalize it. For those parents that have kids that are more flip at the mouth, they might verbalize it, but that doesn't mean stop doing it.
And I'm going to say this. When did you like everything your parent made you do?
Right. I didn't.
No.
But I appreciate it.
You appreciate it now. Yeah.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So, thanks again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. You all have a good one.